I'm Troy Reynolds.
And I'm Tricia Cave.
You're about to go on the educational record.
Welcome to the Educational Record, a YouTube series where we grill candidates for Texas State Office about their positions on key educational issues so that you can make an informed choice when you vote.
As you make that informed choice, we hope you'll join us in the block vote. If you don't know what that is, stick around for a bit. At the end of this video, we'll talk a bit about what the block vote is. Right now, we would like to welcome Jeff Whitfield, candidate for House District 92, to the show. Welcome.
Thank you all very much for having
Hi,
me.
Jeff.
We appreciate you joining us today. We need conversations about education with candidates and incumbents alike. So thank you for participating with us. Why don't we get started? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to your folks. My name is Jeff Whitfield. I'm the Democratic candidate for Texas House District 92. And House District 92 includes the cities of Hurst, Euless, Bedford, parts of Arlington, Grand Prairie, and Fort Worth. So we're in Tarrant County, really between Dallas and Fort Worth, but we're all on the Fort Worth side, right up against Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. This is the area where I grew up. I actually was raised in the Northeast Tarrant County Mid-Cities area. I'm a product of one of the public schools that I will represent, Birdville ISD. My mother was a hairdresser all across these cities as a kid. And so after school, I spent a lot of time in the hair salons of this area. And it was really my family, my church, my teachers, my mom's clients who taught me how important service was and set me off on a course of service, which started at the Air Force Academy, was then an Air Force officer. I went on to work on diplomatic issues as a Fulbright scholar and one of the world's first peace fellows. Came back and studied law at the University of Texas, where I was also an aide to Senator John Whitmire, the longest-serving senator in our state. After law school and after legislative service, I went and worked with the war crimes prosecutors in The Hague, and then clerked for one of the highest courts in the United States, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and then came back home where my wife and I were both raised to be near our family and recognizing that our community had plenty of challenges that needed good people working on them. I am the husband of a teacher. I have a 7-year-old boy who's in school. And when I got home, and I'm a lawyer, I was working on community issues. And I really blame this whole experience on my teachers and neighbors who sat me down a couple of years ago and frankly called me out. They said, you know, we have a dangerous person representing our community who is harmful to the very thing that allowed you to succeed. Our public education system is at risk. And admittedly, I would not have done anything that I just listed out for you, anything in my life, had I not had the extraordinary public education I received here. And they said, you've got to take this guy on. We've got to have somebody who can bring good quality representation back for our community. So with their leadership and guidance, in fact, one of my high school teachers is my campaign treasurer. We have been in this race for a year and a half to try to make sure we can protect the things that we know this community cares about. It's the same topics that I heard about in the hair salon as a kid. Public education is at the top of the list.
That's quite a resume.
You've got quite an impressive resume. Go ahead and give us a little bit of an overview of your philosophy on public education, Jeff.
Public education is the heart of our society. Literally, I can understand why public education is a constitutional requirement in the state of Texas, because we've recognized, decades and decades ago that it is the great equalizer, that we have to have an excellent public education system that transforms not only individuals, but transforms families and transforms society. And sadly, we had too many elected officials who don't recognize this sort of critical, pivotal role of public education in our society. So I'll tell you, what I'm saying to you is not something that I've just come to learn myself. It's come from people who are on the front lines. The people who were my teachers, my administrators, who are my counselors today, are the people that I'm hearing that our schools are under threat and that literally our children, our families are being harmed because our public education system does not have the focus that it needs from our elected officials. And I intend to bring that focus back.
Texas certainly has more than its fair share of unfriendly people in the legislature right now. That's one of Texans for Public Education's, well, it is the primary mission, is to change the culture in Austin to one that's not hostile towards public education. For our viewers that don't know how we do that, we rate politicians, both incumbents and candidates alike, as friendly, neutral, or unfriendly to public education. We do that based on research, and everyone in the group, we have over 31,000 people in the group, everyone has a right to vote on those ratings based on their interpretation of the research. So every person in our group has a slightly different definition of what friendly, unfriendly, or neutral is. What's your definition of a friendly politician towards public education? What does friendly mean to you?
In my opinion, an elected official who is friendly to public education is one who not only speaks about the importance of public education, but acts in a way that shows that they're committed to public education. Some of the pivotal issues on that right now are, are you going to support voucher programs and scholarships and other falsely named programs that take money out of our public education and give them to private run businesses? Because if you are, you're not friendly to public education. Are you listening to our families and our teachers who tell you that our testing system is not an appropriate measure of children's success? Because if you're not listening to that, then you're not friendly to public education. So those sorts of issues, including teacher retention, if you're not listening to why we're losing exceptional educators and understanding that we need to not only protect them and provide the resources they need while they're in the classroom, but when they retire, then you're not friendly to public education. And I'll tell you that right now, I'm seeing it in my race, I'm seeing it everywhere. People want to pretend like they're friendly to public education. They're sending out ads, they're putting commercials up, they're saying they're public education champions, but these are the same people that would expand charter schools, who are held unaccountable, that would take our public money and put them into private vouchers. And we have got to call them out. We've got to call them on what they are and not allow them to lie to the people of Texas. And I'm honored to be working with y'all to shine a light on this.
Well, that's awesome. I agree with you 100%. You kind of already touched on this, but what do you see as the top 2 or 3 issues that we're facing in public education right now?
Yeah, again, I always want to give credit back to where this information comes from. I am blessed to be in regular conversation with the former superintendent of my schools, my former administrators, my teachers, current educators, and all of them universally are concerned about just a few. There are some specific elements that are coming up. One is this, we already have an under-resourced public education system. The fact that we passed some great public education legislation in the last session is wonderful, but there's not the resources in the bank to keep this going forward. So we're concerned, where are the resources going to be? And on top of the fact that we're under-resourced, we are allowing this sort of unchecked growth of charter schools where money gets directed out of our public education system into these private businesses, taking away those critical resources that our public education system needs. On top of that, you have these charter schools, these business-run enterprises aren't held to the same level of accountability. So from a resource angle, that's a huge problem. Teacher retention, we have massive unfunded mandates and a lack of resources, and our educators are being accused of not doing they're not being recognized for doing the amazing job they're doing. To the contrary, they're being blamed for things that they shouldn't be. And teachers are being burned out. I was a trial lawyer. I was a litigator, and my wife was teaching 10th grade English in Fort Worth ISD. She was working more hours than I was. We were spending our own resources to make sure that those kids in Fort Worth ISD got all the things that they needed. This is what every one of our teachers are doing. And while at the same time, they're being disrespected by a system, both when they're active teachers and then our retirees who the system is not in place to provide the protection, the care that they need. So that, the teacher retention and then testing, of course. I mean, the fact that STAR tests and these A through F grades, they pretend like this stuff is true, is quantitative, and it's an accurate assessment. It's just false. I mean, anybody who really knows the business knows that this is not a proper way to assess the success of our students and our teachers in our schools. So those are some of the key issues.
So, Jeff, one common thread in everything that you've talked about and several other issues that are of concern right now with public education is local control versus state control. Whether you're talking about funding, whether you're talking about testing, whether you're talking about charter schools with appointed boards rather than elected boards, there seems to be a developing issue across the board with where is the balance between local control and state control of the schools. Where do you stand on this, and where is that balance? How do you find it?
I think often about this issue of local control reminds me of the way that we fought through things in the military. Where you see battles fail miserably is when you have people in the White House directing what happens in a battlefield situation on the ground when the troops are face to face. And unfortunately, people like my opponent and the people that support him would much rather that you ignore the people that are in the field. You ignore the teachers, you ignore the frontline educators, and just listen to this small group of people up here who say that they have the magic solution to education. And that to me, that's how you really screw things up. That's how you lose wars. It's how you break your education system. The teachers are on the front line. They need to be listened to by the administrators who are on the front line. Those administrators need to be listened to by the school boards. And then the state needs to make sure that those schools can have the resources that those teachers need to do their job. I understand that there are some things that at a state level we need to have floors, below which we don't allow anything to go. But we need to allow those teachers and administrators to be exceptional, to be creative, to do the work that needs to be done, and give us an understanding of what they need. What we need here in the mid cities is not the same thing that they need in inner city Houston. And so why is the state going to be instructing how people should be doing, how they should be doing the work that they're doing? So I think local control is essential to making sure that our education system is the sort of exceptional education system that a state like Texas, an exceptional state, deserves for her citizens.
Okay, you also kind of have touched on this already, but all politicians at election time say that they love public education. Teachers get tired of the empty platitudes. So what concrete moves can you outline in your plans that are more than just empty fluff?
Yeah, and you are dead on right. I mean, especially right now, I cannot believe how many elected officials who have taken charter school money and voted for vouchers now want to pretend like they're public school champions. HB3, the public education transformative legislation, there was one legislator who voted against it.
And it was Stickland.
Who I'm running to replace. And you know what? Jonathan Stickland would never have been in office were it not for Jeff Kaysen. Jeff Kaysen helped get Stickland elected back in 2012. So we all, and Stickland and Kaysen are two peas in a pod. Kaysen's taking money from the charter schools. He's all about vouchers. So they're going to pretend like they're public school champions. And the folks here are going to see through that. I worry about the rest of the state, but the folks here, they're seeing through it. So what would I do is exactly what I'm telling you on this call. We will find the revenue. We will seek out additional revenue sources to make sure that we can provide the resources that our teachers need. I would fight these efforts to take away local control from our school districts. This stuff that's been imposed at the state level that prevents our school districts from doing what their teachers and administrators have asked for. I would be on the side of reversing that. I would be on the side of asking, why is the TEA administrator, why is he allowed to just willy-nilly expand charter schools as he chooses?
Yes.
we're not, we've got to shut that down. And why is it the Republicans who pretend like they want to hold people accountable? The current elected officials, let me say specifically, the current Republican majority in the legislature who wants to say that they're ready to hold people accountable, but they're not ready to put restrictions on the administrator. That concerns me. So what I promise the people of my district is that I will always listen to them and I will advocate for them what they want. And what they are telling me is they want public education dollars going to our public schools, and they want to stop the flow of our precious resources into private business. So that would be a focus.
Jeff, while we're talking about political rhetoric, and another common thing that you hear from politicians during election years is how public education is broken. You hear expressions like the pipeline to prison from public schools and things like that. A previous interviewee made a factual statement, said we would be disingenuous to say that there aren't problems in public education that need to be fixed. There are. I'm an active administrator, and I'll say that right now. We need to sit down at the table and address some issues. In your opinion, what is broken, and how do we fix it?
Yeah, I definitely don't like the phrase broken because, one, our public education system consists of so many people, so many systems, and there are a lot more bright spots than there are dark spots. But where can we improve? Because that's what matters, right? This is literally our children, our future, not only of education, but of our economy, of our democracy. And so we should expect excellence. And sadly, in public education, as in the people that we get too often elected to represent us, we've taken mediocrity sometimes at best, right? For House District 92, they didn't even get mediocrity in the past. But what we need is we need to recognize that the teachers on the front line and the administrators on the front line, they know what they need to make those kids, to give them an environment to succeed and learn. And we need to get the politics out of the way and provide them the resources and the structure that allows them to do the exceptional work that I know they'll do. And we need to stop putting unfunded mandates on them and not giving them the resources they need. Now, look, I'm going to agree with you that there are challenges in our society, but we have broken families. We have broken people. We have people suffering from all sorts of things. And what we do is every one of them comes to a public school. And those teachers have to be their parent, their counselors, their child protective service worker, their social worker. And on top of that, provide them an exceptional 21st century education. My gosh. We're asking them to do everything, and we're literally giving them nothing to do with it. So that's how we make Texas public education the caliber that it should be, is we give those teachers and those administrators the resources they need to do all those things that our society needs of them.
Okay, well, as we're wrapping things up, do you have any final thoughts you want to present to the viewers, or any events that you'd like to plug that are related to public education that you'd like for them to know about?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just come back and say, as we've said again, everybody knows public education is the key issue right now, because Republicans, Democrats are talking about it, everybody is. So we need your listeners, your viewers, to hold everyone accountable, hold me accountable, hold my opponent accountable. Don't just let us say that we're public education champions, but ask these hard questions about what policies will you support. In the past year, I've listened to teachers and parents and kids in listening sessions that Raise Your Hand Texas has held. I've been to retired teacher meetings. I've spoken to lists of educators. My opponent has appeared at none of those things. That should tell you, if you're not willing to listen and talk, you're not going to be doing much listening whenever you're elected. And what we have coming up, we have a Raise Your Hand Texas forum coming up in October. Love to invite y'all to participate. It's going to be online. You'll find that on our website, whitfieldfortexas.com, or like our Facebook page, Jeff Whitfield for Texas House District 92. You can see some of the other public education related activities we have coming up. So thank you all so much for the work you're doing, for the things your listeners are doing. I'm just honored to be able to be a voice for our public educators.
Jeff, we appreciate you participating in this and having a discussion with us. That's something that's been lacking for so long. And want to challenge our viewers to do the same. Hold the people accountable, speak to the candidates, speak to the incumbents, speak to anyone, any elected representative of yours, and sit down and have a discussion. The problem has been the lack of dialogue. We need to initiate it. So Texans for Public Education, this is your block vote candidate, Jeff Whitfield, House District 92. Get out there, get 10 more just like you, and get to the polls. Thanks again, Jeff. Have a great week.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jeff.
As promised, a little more about the block vote. If you've never heard about the block vote, you're not alone. It's a new process that we espouse here at Texans for Public Education. As a group, we analyze the records of candidates and incumbents alike in regards to public education. We then assign a rating of neutral, friendly, or unfriendly to each candidate, regardless of party. All 31,000 members have a vote in those ratings. Once the ratings are set, we use them to unify our vote into one large block of votes. We do this only with state offices. Members are free to vote as they wish for any other office. We do not tell people how to vote. Instead, we come together and make the decision as a group. If you would like to know more about how the process works, please visit our website at texansforpubliceducation.com. We hope to see you on the next episode of On the Educational Record. Bye-bye.